The Lakebane Story. We live in the last days of the prophesied apocalypse, the time of Ragnarok. It is a time when the worms, toxins, and creatures are everywhere, even upon our very doorstep. Not long ago our lake was polluted, tainted by worm filth, and home to a number of banes and tainted creatures. Their nature and number were unknown, but when called upon by the warder and the keeper of the land to duty, to summon forth these banes through the use of a galliard gift, I did not hesitate. I welcomed the chance to pit Garu's strength against the worm. So it came after much debate and delay that the night of our hunt would begin. There were many that night that came to the call of the keeper of the land and offered their skills to Troy Gwyn Ria's leadership. Brock, Tor, and I stood for the Fenrir. Antares represented the children of Gaia. Cassius was there of the Shadow Lords, and Megan of the Fianna. Troy had expected others to attend, but the hour came and we could not delay any longer. We set off moving through the spirit world, to the far end of the lake, the farthest from the cairn, as was deemed safest should my call dredge up the worm creatures more numerous and more powerful than our small party could deal with. The guardians patrolling the Bon area that night were forewarned and were watchful. Our own group took up positions. I stood in the center of a ring of Garu, each tense and battle-ready, eager to see some action. My howling call rang out throughout the umbral landscape, a series of yips and yelps to flush and call forth the enemy from its lair into our waiting attack. We waited, then noted movement out in the lake. The waters were churning. A wave began to swell and move towards our clustered group. As the wave broke upon the shore, we saw that it was made up of thousands of small fish and frogs. A swarm of aquatic spirits, tainted by the worm's corruption, had answered my call. The school floundered at the shore, but were unable to come upon the land. An overzealous member or two of our group waded out to greet the swarm and shredded many of its numbers while being bitten at incessantly. For a long moment it seemed that this would be the extent of what my call would summon forth, a mass of fingerling fish and frogs. Then the ground shook. We looked to each other, then to the ground beneath our feet. There was movement just under the surface. It was Antares who struck first with his fang dagger, plunging in and biting deep. My own razor-sharpened claws were not far behind. We tore deep into the ground and met with success. His dagger, my claws, both came up, dripping brackish sludge. Movement stilled in our location, but at the edge of our circle, out of the ground, seeped yet more of the same foul-smelling filth. It piled high upon itself and moved towards the center with purpose. Megan, the young Fianna Thurge, was quick to note that these were hruglings, toxic earth elemental spirits, that were vulnerable to pure, clean soil. None of which we had on hand, of course. Luckily, they were also vulnerable to blade and claw. It was Troy, Tor, Brock, and Cassius who faced off this second hrugling. It did not stand a chance against their combined attacks, especially when late arrivals, Stefan and Celeste, joined the fray. It was only when a tentacle lashed out in attack against Brock did we note that yet another worm creature had answered the call. In the lake, offshore, amidst the frenzied churning waters, was a wakshani, a toxic water elemental, resembling a giant jellyfish. Brock was able to maintain his ground against the attack, and moments later, as that last hrugling sank to the ground in a quivering heap, he, along with many others of our group, leapt into action to face this new foe. Some waded out into the swarm of frenzied, biting, wormling fish and frogs. Others left the waters and climbed onto the creature, but all fought valiantly in battle against the Wakashani. Its tentacles whipped about, striking out at the warriors, one tentacle managing to impale a crippling blow to the young Megan, who found out that its touch was pure poison. The young Thurge was brought back to shore by Brock. Again our force proved greater, and the Wakshani was brought down, aided by a flame spirit that joined the fray, its presence igniting the waters around the Wakshani. When the Wakshani was dead, Troy and the flame spirit burned away the remaining swarm. The call had been successful. The lake was cleared of Wyrm creatures. All that was left to do was cleanse the lake of taint. It took but a day for our Thurges working together with the Gurral to cleanse the lake and its tributaries. A long day, but the lake was cleansed. The time of Ragnarok may be upon our doorstep, but in this battle we were able to keep the Wyrm from our house.